Hello, and welcome back to HEMA Fight Breakdowns. Today I'm going to be breaking down the Black Horns Cup 2025 Longsword Finals match, but I'm going to be doing it in the kind of context of right-of-way rules. See, I've covered Black Horns Cup before, and some people get a little mad when I cover tournaments like this because they do use right-of-way rule sets, which means that sometimes you get fencing that to other people in the HEMA community looks wrong to them or for some reason. Now, this year was a little bit different at the Black Horns Cup. They had a target priority rule set that was meshed in with their right-of-way rule set. So I thought this would be a really great opportunity to take a look at the finals match and to see where that specific addition was making a big difference in the exchanges, and maybe see if the community will stop getting so mad whenever they see right-of-way, when they understand maybe a little bit better how it works and a little bit better how target priority can completely change how it works. So for our first exchange, we're going to have a really simple one, and one that would be extremely simple to judge both in right-of-way and afterblow formats, but would have completely different outcomes depending on what rule set you were using. To the untrained eye, when you watch this exchange, basically what you're seeing is two people just hit each other at the same time. And in a right-of-way rule set, the determining factor is who attacked first. And for a lot of people in the community, they're going to look at that concept and go, oh, well, I don't really care who attacks first or second. All I care about is what landed. And in that sense, in a 2-1 afterblow system, what we have here is a hit to the head and a hit to the hands that pretty much comes in about the same time. Now, if you slow it down and you watch the replay, what you can pretty easily see is that Fencer on the left was the one to attack first. And in a normal right-of-way rule set, that would mean they would have priority. And this is again where the community would maybe get a little bit upset because they would see someone who committed forward to hitting someone in the hands, got smashed right on the top of the head, and theoretically would get a point for it. And they just don't like that outcome. But in this particular version of the Black Horns Cup rule set, we had target priority as well. And what that means is that there were certain targets that would always keep priority over other targets, and certain targets would always lose priority over other targets. And one great example is the one we see here. This headshot came in after the attack of the fighter on the left, but at the end of the day, their target priority, the headshot, was a higher priority than the arm shot, and that means the fighter on the right got the point from this exchange. So if you want a really basic breakdown of what is changing about this particular implementation, this is a great example. What we're going to be seeing throughout this fight are examples where somebody might attack first, but it doesn't necessarily matter because where you hit ends up determining the final outcome most of the time. So for our next exchange, we have another interaction that sometimes gets people a little upset, and that is a one-handed thrust. So in traditional right-of-way, one-handed attacks aren't deprioritized in any way, and they can score just like anything else. And in a situation where you don't get 2 points or 1 point, depending on where you hit, one-handed attacks can be significantly more effective than maybe they would normally be. But in this particular instance, we have a situation here where Fencer on the right has backed Fencer on the left all the way into the corner and then nails them with a nice little one-handed thrust to the belly. But at the exact same time as this happens, Fencer on the left comes in with a hand shot of their own that just manages to nick the glove of Fencer on the right. Now, normally in a right-of-way style rule set, the only determining factor would be who moved first. And if you watch the slow-mo, it's pretty clear that Fencer on the right moves first. But one thing that Black Horns Cup tried to do here was not get too far into the nitty-gritty of who moves first. The idea being that if you couldn't clearly tell who was the initial attacker when the original attack happened, even if you went back to video review, they would try to make sure to keep these things as a double, because basically what they didn't want to do was have these kinds of determinations where the slightest movement of somebody's pinky toe was determining the difference between winning and losing. So in this particular exchange, they actually ruled this one a double, because despite the fact that this was a thrust to the chest, it was one-handed, which means it did not have priority over the hand strike that happened at the same time. Both of these fencers got a point, which really means neither of them got anything. So next up on our gravy train of things you don't like to see in a HEMA tournament, we have the dreaded leg cut. Now this leg cut is not quite the horrible beast that it sometimes is. It is a two-handed leg cut, but it still comes into play with this tournament rule set having target priority and right of way at the same time. Now, in a right-of-way perspective, fencer on the right gets every piece of credit possible. They initiate the attack, they land to their target, they even make a pretty decent attempt at getting away before they end up getting stabbed in the head. And in under right-of-way rules, this person would have gotten a very clear point. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't like. They don't like the idea that you can go for such an impossible to parry target on another person, hit, and then completely ignore everything that happens to you afterwards. So, in an attempt to fix that, Blackhorns, of course, has their target priority, which means the head takes priority over the leg, and fencer on the left is the one who gets the point in this exchange. So, if you're the kind of person who hates leg shots getting credit, well, this is another thing that this implementation of rules has solved. So we're going to end on a really cool exchange here, and I want to end on this one because at the end of the day, it's an exchange that would get you points in any tournament, anywhere in the world, at any time, because rule set doesn't really apply when you hit and you don't get hit. And this is a really important thing to understand, because when people get all up in arms about right-of-way rule set or afterblow rule set or whatever kind of combination of the two you're trying to make, a lot of times people get bogged down into the worst case scenarios and they think that, oh, well, this tournament rule set is just trash because someone can win by just hand sniping all the way and then running away the whole time, or only stabbing to the chest and just eating shots left and right to the hands and legs. And the reality is that most of the time, even when you have rule sets that maybe don't give you the kind of fencing that you want to see, the kind of fencing that you do still want to see is the majority of the fencing in those cases. You have to be able to take a step back sometimes and breathe a little bit of fresh air and go, okay, maybe I'm getting a little bit too hyper-focused on whatever this rule set is going to maybe produce, and I should maybe look a little bit more on what it actually did produce. The majority of the fencing in this finals match was absolutely beautiful stuff, and I have honestly done the fight a disservice by cutting out all the interactions where right-of-way with priority made the determining factor in the exchange. So, if you want to watch the original stuff, it is down there in the description, and I hope to see you next time for another review.